Hello, guys. Today, the subject we are going to hone in on is having friends at work and how that balance of friendship and work should look like, and what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. Um, so, yeah, that's pretty much the learning objective: how to balance having friends at work. And we'll really talk about that in a second, obviously. So first things first, what Gallup poll found? I found a study online, um, um, and it really went over um, kind of things people run into with in regards to having friends at work. So Um, as you can see, people with friends at work are 36%, have 36% fewer safety incidents. They're 7% more engaged with customers, and they have a 12% higher profit. So those are all great things about having friends at work, and all really positive things that will contribute to a good, healthy work environment. Here are some pros of having friends at work. This is also from the Gallup poll study. That Gallup poll study was about just women in particular, um, which I thought was a little bit strange. But I think the things they're talking about here don't just apply to women. They apply to everyone who's in a working environment. So anyhow, they found that people who reported that they had friends at work are less likely to be actively looking for job or job opportunities. That's really good if you're a manager of a company because you don't want your employees leaving. They're more connected with their coworkers. They know what's expected of them, and um, they're more trusting, and their ethics are better. They're more likely to rate their team and organizational performance excellently. They're more likely to take risks that could lead to innovation. They're more likely to have a positive experience during the day, such as enjoying what they do, um, and they make more progress and they like getting recognized for their success. They're less likely to report having negative experiences during the day or feeling stressed out or tired. So, all really great things that really go along with having friends at work. So I gotta plug in my computer because, of course, when I recording, it said it was low on battery. Anyhow, um, cons. According to CNN, um, here are some issues you really kind of run into with having friends at work. The crowded ladder, first of all, and what they mean by that are a lot of companies are hierarchical, have a hierarchy when it comes to promoting promotions or project assignments, and close friendships can cause some frictions. If you have a friend who you're really tight with, but you guys both want the same promotion, well, that could cause some problems, and there's only one spot, things could get awkward really fast. You're the company you keep. Being considered too close with coworkers can reflect negatively on a friend who isn't viewed in high regards. Yeah, just like anywhere else, um, people will judge you by the people around you. And if you have a coworker who obviously isn't thought of as a very good coworker, as a very productive coworker, that's ultimately going to reflect poorly on you. Um, and then getting stuck into a negative cycle. Friends are good outlets to vent to. You just don't want to get into that cycle of every time you guys are hanging out, you're just venting about work. I mean, it's okay to vent about work once in a while. Don't get me wrong. Everyone vents about work, especially to people they work with. But um, you you don't want that to be the entire point of the friendship. Is just a constant vent thing because that's negative. It's not going to get you anywhere. Uh, what you should do: have friends, not cliques. Make sure you're including people. You don't want to get into that negative um, position where you're in like a clique with some people, and then other people get jealous, and it just can go downhill really fast, and you're The work environment you're in can feel like middle school all over again. Make sure you are still productive. Just because you have a friend at work doesn't mean the expectations change. You still need to get stuff done, and sometimes that can be hard because you're with a friend. You want to talk to your friend. You want to socialize. Um, so those are all completely reasonable things, but you're still at work. And that really goes into the next point. Remember, you're still at a work environment. So that goes along with being productive, but that goes along with what the kinds of things you're saying too. Um, people talk differently and act differently when they're around their friends than they do at work, and you need to make sure you're still having professional conversations. I'm not saying you can't like joke around and have fun, but you need to make sure that it's appropriate fun, and it's not the sort of conversation that if your boss overhears it, well, then you're gonna have to have an awkward conversation about that. Text versus email. When you're dealing with stuff related to the job and you need to email someone who is, happens to be your friend, who you work with. If it's work related, you should send an email. You should email that person, and then you can, and then if something happens where maybe a boss of yours asks, hey, did you send that email? You have that evidence, and it's not going to be that this awkward like, oh yeah, I texted them. That just doesn't look good. So if it's about work related things, sending an email usually is a lot more appropriate. I do the same thing with um, Mrs. Zank. If there's something funny I saw or something funny I want to tell her about, as a friend, I'll send her a text. If it's something related to teaching or a student or something like that, I'll send her an email. So, that's something I even follow. Um, and make sure they stay positive. This kind of piggybacks off of that who you hang out with thing and how that reflects on you. So of course it's going to reflect negatively on you, but it's just going to be a negative work environment, and no one wants to work in a negative work environment. So if you're if you're not having positive conversations, you're having negative conversations with people all the time. So making sure that you're in good friendships where you guys can have positive relations. And that's kind of how you balance that. So the exit ticket is going to look like this, except I'm going to delete this part because this is my work. I didn't put any examples for pros or cons because you can, it's literally just a matter of going on this slide and finding them. Um, um, Now, the last question is how can you maintain a friendship at work without damaging your relationships with, um, well, this should be not there, with, I'm fixing it live, your coworkers and your reputation at work. Um, so for my example, I said I'll make sure not to gossip at work with friends, especially if it's not about a coworker. So kind of taking what we talked about and say and what would you do with it? Um, Now, obviously, you shouldn't gossip about really at all ever. But if you're going to gossip, because let's be honest, gossip happens. Uh, do just use some common sense here. Especially don't do it at work. Especially when you're talking about someone you work with who could potentially be there. So yeah, so I want you guys to take one of these things. You could talk about something like this. Um, there's maybe more in the con section, and then turn that into something here, like what you shouldn't do, um, that could damage your reputation. Um, so yeah, so that's what I want you guys to do for the exit ticket. If you got any questions, just email me.